The Sheikh billionaire tried to hide $1 billion scam in Arabic. The shy waitress translated and ruined him. The crystal chandeliers of Le Jardin cast golden light across white tablecloths as Emma Carter balanced 3 plates of seared duck breast on her left arm. Her black uniform was pressed perfectly, her dark brown hair pulled back in a neat bun, and her hazel eyes stayed carefully downcast as she navigated between tables of Manhattan's elite. At 25, she had perfected the art of invisibility. In a restaurant where entrees cost more than her weekly rent, waitresses were meant to be seen but never noticed, present but never heard. She set the plates down at table 7 with practiced efficiency, murmuring the standard description of the dish that no one was listening to. The hedge fund managers didn't even glance her way as they continued their conversation about their Hamptons properties. Emma had learned long ago that to wealthy people, service workers were essentially furniture that occasionally brought food. It hadn't always been this way. 3 years ago, Emma Carter had walked across the stage at Columbia University to receive her master's degree in international relations, summa cum laude, with a specialization in Middle Eastern studies and a thesis that her professors called groundbreaking. She spoke 7 languages fluently, including Arabic, Farsi, Hebrew, Turkish, French, Mandarin, and English. Her doctoral research on international financial crimes and offshore money laundering had been selected for publication in the Journal of International Economics. Then, James Morrison, her fiancé and fellow doctoral candidate, had stolen everything. He copied her research, published it under his name, and when she tried to fight back, he had connections she didn't. His father sat on Columbia's board of trustees. Within 6 months, Emma's academic career was destroyed, her reputation shredded, and her engagement ended. The man she loved had taken her work, her future, and her identity. Now she served overpriced duck to people who would never know she could discuss Middle Eastern monetary policy in 5 languages. Her Columbia degree gathered dust in a drawer, while she smiled politely and asked if anyone needed more water. The restaurant manager, Pierre, appeared at her elbow, his expression tense. Pierre was a thin Frenchman who treated Le Jardin like it was his personal kingdom, and tonight he looked unusually stressed. "Emma, we have a very important party arriving in 5 minutes. Sheikh Rashid al-Mansouri and his associates. They've reserved the private dining room. I need you on your absolute best behavior. No mistakes, no delays in visible service. Understood?" Emma nodded. "Of course, Pierre. The Sheikh is worth billions. If he's happy, he tips more than you make in a month. If he's unhappy, I'll be serving crepes from a food truck in Brooklyn. So please, just be perfect and invisible." Invisible. Emma had that part down perfectly. 10 minutes later, the front doors opened and the temperature in the restaurant seemed to drop. Sheikh Rashid al-Mansouri entered like a king surveying conquered territory. He was 48, tall and imposing in a charcoal brioni suit that probably cost $15,000. His black hair was streaked with distinguished silver at the temples, his beard perfectly trimmed, and his dark eyes swept the room with the confidence of a man who had never been told no in his entire life. A Patek Philippe watch glinted on his wrist, the kind that cost more than a house. Behind him came 4 men in expensive suits, clearly associates or advisors, and 2 massive security guards who looked like they could break a person in half without breaking a sweat. The entire group moved with the casual arrogance of people who knew they owned whatever room they entered. Pierre practically sprinted to greet them, bowing so low Emma was surprised he didn't fall over. "Sheikh al-Mansouri, welcome, welcome. Your private dining room is ready. Please this way." The Sheikh didn't acknowledge Pierre's existence. He simply walked past him toward the private dining room at the back of the restaurant, his entourage following like planets orbiting a sun. As they passed Emma, one of the associates bumped into her hard enough to make her stumble. He didn't apologize or even look back. Emma steadied herself and took a deep breath. Just another night serving people who thought she was beneath their notice. Pierre grabbed her arm as the group disappeared into the private room. "You're their server tonight. Remember, invisible but perfect." They've ordered the chef's tasting menu, 15 courses with the 2005 Chateau Margaux. That's a $3,000 bottle of wine. "Emma, do not spill a single drop." "I won't," Emma said quietly. She gathered the wine glasses and the ridiculously expensive bottle, her hands steady despite her nerves. The private dining room was separated from the main restaurant by frosted glass doors that muffled sound, but didn't completely block it. As she approached, she could hear loud male voices speaking in rapid Arabic. Emma's steps faltered for just a moment. Arabic. She hadn't spoken Arabic in 3 years, not since her academic career ended. Hearing it now felt like touching an old wound. She pushed through the doors with her professional smile in place. The 6 men were seated around the large table, already deep in conversation. None of them looked up as she entered. "Good evening, gentlemen," Emma said softly. "I'll be serving you tonight. May I pour your wine?" Sheikh Rashid flicked his hand dismissively without looking at her, continuing his conversation in Arabic. Emma moved around the table, carefully pouring the Chateau Margaux into each glass. Her hands moved automatically, while her mind translated the Arabic conversation without conscious effort. "The contracts are finalized," one of the associates was saying in Arabic. "The American investors think they're buying legitimate oil futures. They have no idea the wells don't exist," another man laughed. "Stupid Americans. They see Dubai and oil, and they throw money at us without doing any real investigation." Emma's hand trembled slightly as she poured, but she kept her face neutral. She had to be hearing this wrong. They couldn't be discussing what she thought they were discussing. Sheikh Rashid leaned back in his chair, swirling his wine. "How much total?" he asked in Arabic. $1.2 billion, the first associate replied. "The money transfers to the Cayman accounts on Friday. By the time they realize the contracts are worthless, we'll have moved it through 6 different shell companies. Untraceable." "And Senator Blackwell?" the Sheikh asked. "He'll receive his $50 million once the regulatory investigation is blocked. He's already drafted the legislation to prevent the SEC from looking into foreign oil investments. It'll pass next month." The men laughed together, raising their glasses in a toast. "Two stupid Americans and their money," one said in Arabic. Emma finished pouring and stepped back, her heart pounding so hard she was sure they could hear it. She had just overheard the details of a massive financial fraud. $1.2 billion. Fake oil futures. Bribed senators. This wasn't just corporate corruption. This was international financial crime on a scale that would devastate thousands of investors. And they had discussed it openly, because they assumed no one could understand them. Sheikh Rashid finally looked at her, his expression dismissive. "You can go," he said in English, his accent thick. "Come back in 10 minutes with the first course." "Yes, sir," Emma whispered, backing out of the room. Her mind raced as she walked back toward the kitchen. She should tell someone, but who? Pierre would never believe her. The police would laugh at a waitress claiming to have overheard an international fraud scheme. She had no proof, no recording, nothing but her word against a billionaire's. Then she saw him. Agent Marcus Chen, sitting alone at table 12, reading something on his tablet while he ate his steak. Marcus was a regular at Le Jardin. Came in twice a month, always polite, always tipped well. Emma had served him dozens of times, and she knew from the conversations she'd overheard that he was an FBI agent specializing in financial crimes. Emma's hands shook as she approached his table. This was insane. She was a waitress. She should stay invisible, stay safe, stay in her place. That's what James had told her when he destroyed her career. Know your place, Emma. But if she stayed silent, thousands of people would lose their life savings. Pension funds would be wiped out. Families would be destroyed. And men like Sheikh Rashid would continue to believe they were untouchable. "Excuse me, Agent Chen," Emma said quietly, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm sorry to interrupt, but I need to tell you something. It's urgent." Marcus looked up, surprised. In all the time she'd served him, she'd never initiated a conversation. "Is everything all right?" Emma glanced back at the private dining room, then leaned closer. "The men in the private room are planning a financial fraud. $1.2 billion in fake oil futures contracts. The money transfers Friday to Cayman Island accounts. They've bribed Senator Richard Blackwell with $50 million to block SEC investigations." Marcus's expression shifted from surprise to intense focus. "How do you know this?" They were speaking in Arabic. "They think no one here understands them, but I do. I have a master's degree in Middle Eastern Studies from Columbia. I'm fluent in Arabic. I understood every word." For a long moment, Marcus just stared at her. Then he pulled out his phone. "Tell me everything. Every detail you remember. Names, numbers, dates, everything." Emma talked for 3 minutes straight. reciting the conversation in precise detail, translating the Arabic into English, explaining the structure of the fraud scheme with the technical knowledge from her stolen doctoral research. Marcus recorded every word, his expression growing more serious with each sentence. "This is massive," he said finally. "If what you're saying is true, this is one of the biggest international fraud cases I've ever heard of. But Emma, if you're involved in this investigation, you could be in danger. These people don't play games." "I know," Emma said, "but I can't just let them steal from people." "I can't stay silent." Marcus studied her face. "You're braver than you look." "I'm tired of being invisible," Emma said quietly. "All right. Can you keep listening? Report back everything they say?" "I'll start the investigation immediately, but I need more evidence. Specific account numbers, names of the shell companies, dates of transfers." "Can you do that?" Emma nodded, even though her hands were shaking. "Yes, be careful. Don't let them suspect anything. If they realize you understand Arabic, you're in serious danger. I'll be careful." Emma walked back to the kitchen, her entire body trembling with adrenaline. She had just become a confidential informant for the FBI. She, Emma Carter, the invisible waitress, was about to bring down a billion-dollar fraud scheme. When she returned to the private dining room with the first course, the men were still speaking in Arabic, completely unguarded. Sheikh Rashid was explaining the timeline for moving the money through various offshore accounts. Emma served the food with steady hands, her face a mask of polite neutrality, while she memorized every word. As she set down his plate, Sheikh Rashid said something in Arabic that made the other men laugh. "This stupid girl probably thinks we're complimenting the food. Americans are so ignorant. They don't even bother to learn other languages." Emma's jaw tightened, but she kept her expression blank. "Will there be anything else, gentlemen?" "No, go away," the Sheikh said in English, waving his hand dismissively. Emma left the room, her resolve hardening with every step. He thought she was stupid. He thought she was ignorant. He thought she was invisible. He was about to learn how wrong he was. Over the next 2 hours, Emma served 15 courses to the men in the private dining room. With each visit, she gathered more information. Account numbers in the Cayman Islands and Switzerland. Names of shell companies in Panama and the British Virgin Islands. The identities of 3 other American conspirators, including a bank executive and a hedge fund manager. The exact date and time of the money transfer. Every time she left the room, she found a moment to whisper updates to Agent Marcus, who was still at his table, pretending to work on his tablet while actually coordinating with FBI headquarters. By the end of the night, they had enough evidence to start a full investigation. When the Sheikh's party finally left, they dropped a $500 tip on the table without a word of thanks. Emma stared at the money, thinking about the $1 billion they were planning to steal. $500 was nothing to them. It was pocket change. The people they were about to defraud would lose their entire life savings, and men like Sheikh Rashid would sleep peacefully in their mansions, never thinking twice about the lives they destroyed. Not this time. Agent Marcus approached her as she was cleaning up. "You did good work tonight, Emma. Really good. I've already got teams pulling records on those shell companies. But I need you to understand something. If they come back, if they keep using this restaurant as a meeting place, I need you to keep listening." "Can you do that?" Emma looked at the private dining room, then back at Marcus. "Yes, I can do that." "Good, here's my direct number. Call me any time, day or night, if you hear anything else. And Emma, watch your back. Men like Sheikh Rashid don't like being crossed." Emma nodded, slipping the card into her pocket. As she walked home that night through the cold Manhattan streets, she felt something she hadn't felt in 3 years. Purpose. For the first time since James destroyed her career, she was using her education, her languages, her skills for something that mattered. She wasn't invisible anymore. And Sheikh Rashid al-Mansouri was about to find out exactly what happened when you underestimated the quiet girl in the corner who understood every word you said. The game had begun, and the Sheikh had no idea he was already losing. The next morning, Emma woke to 17 missed calls from Pierre. Her heart sank as she listened to his voicemail. "Emma, Sheikh al-Mansouri loved the service last night. He's requested you specifically as his server for the rest of the week. He's coming back tonight and every night through Friday. This is huge for the restaurant. Be here at 5 o'clock sharp." Emma sat on her bed in her tiny studio apartment, staring at her phone. The Sheikh was coming back, every night, which meant more opportunities to gather evidence, but also more danger. If he discovered she understood Arabic, if he realized she was feeding information to the FBI, she didn't want to think about what would happen. She called Agent Marcus immediately. "This is good," Marcus said when she told him. "We need more evidence before we can move. Financial crimes like this require ironclad proof. If you can keep listening, we can build a case that will put all of them away for decades. What if they figure out I understand them? Then you call me immediately and we pull you out. Emma, I won't lie to you. This is dangerous, but what you're doing could save thousands of people from financial ruin. That's worth something." Emma thought about her own financial ruin, about how it felt to have everything stolen from her. "Okay, I'll do it." That evening, Sheikh Rashid returned with the same group of associates. This time Emma was ready. She had a small notepad hidden in her apron pocket, and every time she left the private dining room, she quickly jotted down the details she'd heard. The men spoke even more freely than before, emboldened by the privacy and the wine. Emma learned that the fake oil futures contracts were being sold through a company called Meridian Energy Holdings, which existed only on paper. The actual oil fields were abandoned wells in the Iraqi desert that hadn't produced oil in 20 years. The contracts promised returns of 30% annually, which should have been a red flag. But the Sheikh's reputation and the official-looking documents convinced investors it was legitimate. "The beauty of it," one associate said in Arabic, "is that by the time they realize it's a scam, we'll have already moved the money 6 times. They'll be chasing ghosts while we're spending their retirement funds." Sheikh Rashid laughed, a cold sound that made Emma's skin crawl. "Americans are so trusting. They think everyone operates by their rules. They don't understand that in the real world, power is the only rule that matters." Emma's hand trembled as she poured more wine, but she kept her face neutral. She was getting better at this, at being invisible while seeing everything. On the 3rd night, something changed. As Emma entered the private dining room, she noticed a new face at the table. A man in his early 30s with sandy blonde hair and wire-rimmed glasses, wearing a Brooks Brothers suit. Her blood ran cold. James Morrison, her ex-fiancé, the man who had stolen her research and destroyed her career. Emma froze in the doorway, the wine bottle suddenly heavy in her hands. James looked up and their eyes met. For a moment, neither of them moved. Shock, recognition, and something like fear flashed across James's face. "Emma?" he said, his voice incredulous. "Emma Carter." The entire table fell silent. Sheikh Rashid looked between them, his dark eyes sharp and calculating. "You know this waitress?" he asked James in English. James recovered quickly, his expression shifting to condescending pity. "Yes, we went to Colombia together. I had no idea you were working here, Emma. How unexpected." Emma's mind raced. James was part of this. Her ex-fiancé, the man who had stolen her academic work, was now helping Sheikh Rashid steal $1 billion from innocent investors. The irony was almost too much to bear. "Small world," Emma said quietly, moving to pour the wine with shaking hands. "Indeed," James said, watching her carefully. Emma was quite the academic star at Columbia. Master's degree in international relations, specialized in Middle Eastern studies. Spoke what, 6 languages? 7? Emma's heart stopped. He was telling them. He was telling them she spoke Arabic. Sheikh Rashid's eyes narrowed, studying Emma with new interest. "Is that so? Which languages?" Emma had a split second to make a decision. If she admitted she spoke Arabic, they would know she'd understood everything. But if she lied and James exposed her, it would be even worse. "French, Spanish, some Mandarin," Emma said, deliberately leaving out Arabic. "I'm rusty now." "Haven't used them in years." James smiled, and Emma saw the cruelty in it. He was enjoying this. "Really? I could have sworn you were fluent in Arabic. Didn't you write your thesis on Middle Eastern financial systems?" The room temperature seemed to drop 10 degrees. Sheikh Rashid set down his wineglass slowly, his gaze locked on Emma. "Arabic?" he said softly. "You speak Arabic?" Emma's mind raced through her options. Deny it and hope James didn't push further. Admit it and try to convince them she hadn't been paying attention to their conversations. "Run?" "I studied it in school," Emma said carefully. "But I'm not fluent. I can barely remember the basics now." "Interesting," the Sheikh said, his voice dangerously quiet. And you've been serving us all week. Hearing our conversations. I don't really pay attention to customer conversations, Emma said, her voice steady despite her terror. I'm just here to serve the food. James leaned back in his chair, clearly enjoying Emma's discomfort. She's being modest, Sheikh al-Mansouri. Emma was the top student in our program. Her Arabic was flawless. She could discuss complex economic policy in Arabic, Farsi, and Hebrew. She was quite brilliant, actually. Before things didn't work out for her, the threat in his words was clear. Emma met his eyes and saw the same cruelty that had destroyed her career. He was threatening to expose her completely if she didn't back down. Sheikh Rashid stood slowly, his imposing frame towering over Emma. "Leave us," he said to her in English. Then in Arabic, he said to his associates, "We'll continue this conversation elsewhere. The walls may have ears." Emma left the room, her heart pounding so hard she thought she might pass out. She made it to the kitchen before her legs gave out, and she had to lean against the wall to stay upright. Her cover was blown. James had exposed her education, her language skills. Even if she denied speaking Arabic fluently, the Sheikh was suspicious now. He would be careful, guarded. Worse, he might investigate her, might discover she'd been talking to the FBI. Emma pulled out her phone with shaking hands and texted Agent Marcus. Compromised. Ex-fiancé recognized me. Told them about my Arabic. Need help. The response came within seconds. Stay in public. Don't go anywhere alone. I'm sending agents to watch your apartment. We'll talk tonight. Emma looked up to see Pierre rushing toward her, his face pale. What happened in there? The Sheikh just paid the bill and left. He seemed angry. Did you do something? No, Emma lied. Everything was fine, but everything was not fine. As Emma finished her shift, she couldn't shake the feeling that she was being watched. When she left the restaurant at midnight, she saw a black Mercedes parked across the street, its windows tinted. It pulled away as soon as she noticed it, but the message was clear. They were watching her. Emma walked quickly toward the subway, her hand clutching her phone. She called Agent Marcus as soon as she was underground. They know, she said without preamble. Or at least they suspect. My ex-fiancé is working with them, and he told them I speak Arabic. The Sheikh left early. There was a car watching the restaurant. Okay, stay calm, Marcus said. We're accelerating the investigation. I've got agents pulling all the financial records now. We might have enough to move on this by tomorrow. Can you get somewhere safe tonight? I'm going home. You said you'd have agents watching. 2 agents in an unmarked car outside your building. You'll be safe. Emma, you've done incredible work. We're close to breaking this case wide open. Just hold on a little longer. Emma took the subway home, hyper-aware of every person around her. When she finally reached her apartment building, she saw the unmarked car Marcus had mentioned. 2 agents visible in the front seats. It should have made her feel safer, but instead it just drove home how much danger she was in. She barely slept that night, jumping at every sound. At 3 in the morning, her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The message was in Arabic. Curiosity killed the cat. Mind your own business or you'll regret it. Emma's hands shook as she forwarded the message to Agent Marcus. His response was immediate. That's a threat. We're moving up the timeline. Stay home tomorrow. Don't go to work. We're going to bring them in. But at 7 in the morning, Pierre called, frantic. Emma, where are you? Sheikh al-Mansouri specifically requested you for a private lunch today. He's offering the restaurant $50,000 if you serve him. $50,000, Emma. You have to come in. Pierre, I can't. I'm not feeling well. Emma, this is your job. If you don't show up, you're fired. I'm sorry, but this is too much money for the restaurant to lose because you have a cold. Be here at noon. Emma hung up and immediately called Agent Marcus. They want me to come back. The Sheikh requested me specifically for lunch. It's a trap. Don't go, Marcus said firmly. We're executing search warrants this afternoon. We'll have him in custody by tonight. Just stay home. But Emma knew Pierre would fire her if she didn't show up. And if she lost this job, she'd lose her apartment, lose everything. She'd already lost her career once. She couldn't afford to lose her livelihood too. Against Agent Marcus's advice, Emma went to work. The moment she walked into Le Jardin, she knew she'd made a mistake. The restaurant was empty except for Sheikh Rashid, sitting alone at a table in the center of the dining room. No associates, no security guards visible, Just the Sheikh and an empty restaurant. Pierre was nowhere to be seen. The kitchen was silent. Emma's instincts screamed at her to run, but before she could turn around, the front door locked behind her with a decisive click. Sheikh Rashid smiled, but there was no warmth in it. "Emma Carter," he said in perfect English, "please sit down. We need to have a conversation." Emma's hand moved to her phone in her pocket, but the Sheikh shook his head. "I wouldn't do that. My associate is watching from across the street with a very powerful rifle. If you make any sudden movements, if you try to call for help, people will get hurt. So please, just sit down and talk to me like a civilized person." Emma's blood ran cold, but she forced herself to walk forward and sit across from him. Her mind raced through her options. The FBI agents outside her apartment didn't know she was here. Agent Marcus thought she was safe at home. No one was coming to help her. "You're very clever," the Sheikh said, studying her face. "James told me all about you last night. Brilliant student, top of your class, fluent in 7 languages. He also told me how he destroyed your career, stole your research. He seemed quite proud of it, actually." "Disgusting man." Emma said nothing, her jaw clenched tight. "I had my people investigate you after James's revelation," the Sheikh continued. Emma Carter, 25 years old, graduated summa cum laude from Columbia University, master's degree in international relations, with a specialization in Middle Eastern studies and international financial crimes. Her thesis was on offshore money laundering and fraudulent investment schemes. Quite the coincidence, don't you think? "What do you want?" Emma asked, her voice steadier than she felt. "I want to know what you've done. You've been listening to our conversations all week. You understand Arabic perfectly, and I'm willing to bet you've told someone what you heard. The FBI, perhaps? That agent who's always here, Marcus Chen." Emma's silence was answer enough. The Sheikh leaned back, his expression thoughtful. "I could kill you right now. It would be easy. An unfortunate accident, a robbery gone wrong, but I find myself curious about you, Emma Carter. You had nothing to gain from interfering in my business. You're a waitress making minimum wage. You could have stayed silent, stayed safe, collected your tips and gone home. But you didn't. Why? Because what you're doing is wrong," Emma said quietly. "You're going to steal $1 billion from people who can't afford to lose it. Pension funds, retirement accounts, people who worked their entire lives for that money. And you don't care. You think you're untouchable because you're rich and powerful. But you're not." The Sheikh's eyes narrowed. "You sound like you're speaking from experience." "Someone stole from me once," Emma said. "Stole my work, my career, my future. I know what it feels like to be powerless, while someone with more money and connections destroys your life. I won't let you do that to thousands of other people." For a long moment, the Sheikh just looked at her. Then, surprisingly, he laughed. "You have courage, I'll give you that. Foolish courage, but courage nonetheless. Do you know what I could do to you? The resources I have at my disposal? I know exactly what you could do," Emma said. "But it doesn't matter. The FBI already has everything. Account numbers, shell company names, dates, amounts, the names of your co-conspirators, including Senator Blackwell. Even if you kill me, the investigation continues." "It's over, Sheikh Al-Mansouri." "You lost." The Sheikh's expression darkened. "I never lose. There's a first time for everything." The Sheikh stood abruptly and Emma braced herself for violence. But instead, he walked to the window looking out at the Manhattan street. "You remind me of someone," he said quietly. "My sister. She was brave like you, spoke truth to power. My father had her killed for it. She was 23 years old." Emma's breath caught. She hadn't expected that. "I've spent my entire life accumulating power so that no one could ever hurt me the way my father hurt her," the Sheikh continued. "Money, influence, fear. I made myself untouchable. And yet here you are, a waitress with nothing, and you've managed to threaten everything I've built. It's almost impressive." "It's not too late to stop," Emma said. "You could walk away from this. Return the money. Cooperate with the investigation. You don't have to be the villain in this story." The Sheikh turned to look at her, and for a moment Emma saw something like regret in his eyes. Then it was gone, replaced by cold calculation. "You're naive if you think men like me get redemption. We're too far gone. I don't believe that. Then you're a fool." The Sheikh pulled out his phone and made a call in Arabic. "It's done. Let her go." He hung up and looked at Emma. "You're free to leave. My associate across the street has been called off." But Emma Carter, hear me clearly. You've made a powerful enemy today. I may lose this battle, but the war is far from over. Watch your back. Emma stood on shaking legs. Why are you letting me go? Because killing you would make you a martyr, and because, despite everything, I respect what you've done. You beat me fairly. That doesn't happen often, he smiled coldly. But don't mistake respect for mercy. If you cross me again, I won't be so generous. Emma walked toward the door, half expecting to be shot in the back. But the door unlocked as she approached, and she stepped out into the bright Manhattan afternoon, gasping for air like she'd been underwater. She made it half a block before her legs gave out, and she had to sit on a bench, shaking uncontrollably. She called Agent Marcus with trembling hands. Emma, where are you? I've been trying to call you. Le Jardin. The Sheikh. He knows everything. He let me go, but Marcus, he knows. Stay there. I'm sending agents to you right now. Don't move. Within 5 minutes, 2 FBI agents arrived and escorted Emma to a black SUV. Agent Marcus was waiting inside, his expression grim. You shouldn't have gone there, he said. You could have been killed, I know. I'm sorry, but Marcus, he admitted everything. He knows we have the evidence. He's not going to run. He thinks he's untouchable. Then he's about to learn otherwise. We're executing the warrants in 2 hours. We'll have him and all his associates in custody by tonight, including your ex-fiancé. Emma leaned back in the seat, exhaustion washing over her. James is part of this? Financial consultant. He's been helping them structure the shell companies and hide the money trails. We'll get him too. Emma closed her eyes. James had stolen her research, and now he was using that knowledge to help steal from thousands of people. The irony was bitter. What happens now? She asked. Now you go into protective custody until we have them all in custody. After that, you'll likely have to testify at trial. But Emma, what you've done here, you've potentially saved thousands of people from financial ruin. That's not nothing. Emma thought about the Sheikh's words. He said I reminded him of his sister, that she spoke truth to power and was killed for it. Marcus was quiet for a moment. Some people are worth standing up to, even when it's dangerous. You did the right thing. I hope so, Emma said quietly. That evening, from a safe house in Brooklyn, Emma watched the news as federal agents raided the Pierre Hotel where Sheikh Rashid was staying. The footage showed him being led out in handcuffs, his expression furious. Senator Richard Blackwell was arrested at his Georgetown home. James Morrison was taken into custody at his office at Columbia University, the same building where Emma had once studied. The news anchors called it one of the largest international fraud cases in decades. $1.2 billion in fake oil futures contracts, thousands of investors saved from financial ruin. The investigation was ongoing, but the main conspirators were in custody. Emma's name wasn't mentioned. She was listed only as a confidential informant, but as she watched the Sheikh being loaded into a federal vehicle, she felt something shift inside her. For 3 years, she'd been invisible, powerless, defeated. James had taken everything from her and she'd accepted it. Not anymore. The next morning, Agent Marcus came to the safe house with news. The Sheikh wants to talk to you. Emma looked up in surprise. What? Why? So he's offering to cooperate with the investigation, turn state's evidence against the larger criminal network. But he says he'll only do it if he can speak with you first. I have no idea why, but his testimony could bring down dozens of other criminals. It's your choice, Emma. You don't have to do this. Emma thought about it for a long moment. Then she nodded. I'll talk to him. 2 hours later, Emma sat in an interrogation room at FBI headquarters waiting. When the door opened and Sheikh Rashid walked in wearing an orange jumpsuit and handcuffs, he looked diminished somehow. Still imposing, but no longer untouchable. He sat down across from her, and for a moment neither of them spoke. Why did you want to see me? Emma asked finally. The Sheikh was quiet for a long moment. I've been thinking about what you said, that it's not too late to stop being the villain. I'm not sure I believe that, but I find myself wanting to try. Emma studied his face, looking for deception, but saw only weariness. I built my empire on my father's legacy, the Sheikh continued. He was a brutal man who believed power was the only thing that mattered. He killed my sister because she dared to question him. I swore I would never be weak like her. I would be strong, untouchable, feared. And I became exactly like him. A monster. So change, Emma said simply. It's not that easy, it never is. But you can start by telling the truth. Help the FBI dismantle the network. Return the money to the people you stole from. It won't erase what you've done, but it's a start. The Sheikh looked at her with something like wonder. You actually believe people can change? I have to believe that. Otherwise, what's the point of any of this? The Sheikh was quiet for a long time. Then he nodded slowly. I'll cooperate. I'll tell them everything. Not because I expect forgiveness or redemption, but because you're right. Someone should stop this. It might as well be me. Thank you, Emma said quietly. As she stood to leave, the Sheikh spoke again. Emma Carter, I was wrong about many things, but I was most wrong about you. You weren't invisible. I was just too blind to see. Emma left the interrogation room feeling strange. She'd expected to feel triumphant, vindicated. Instead, she just felt tired. And maybe, just maybe, a little bit hopeful. Over the next 3 months, Sheikh Rashid al-Mansouri provided testimony that dismantled an international fraud network worth over $8 billion. His cooperation led to the arrest of 43 individuals across 6 countries, including corrupt politicians, bank executives, and other wealthy criminals. The money was recovered and returned to the defrauded investors. James Morrison was sentenced to 15 years in federal prison for his role in the scheme. During the investigation, his theft of Emma's research was also exposed. Columbia University launched an internal investigation, and within weeks, James's published work was retracted, and Emma's original research was restored to her name. The university reached out to Emma with a formal apology and an offer. A full professorship in the International Relations Department, teaching courses on financial crimes and international law. The same position James had stolen from her, now rightfully hers. Emma accepted. The story of the waitress who brought down a billionaire went viral. News outlets around the world covered it. Emma gave a few interviews, speaking about the importance of speaking up against injustice, of using whatever skills and knowledge you have to help others. She became a symbol of something larger than herself. Proof that you didn't need wealth or power to make a difference. You just needed courage and the willingness to do what was right, even when it was terrifying. Sheikh Rashid al-Mansouri was sentenced to 5 years in federal prison, a reduced sentence in exchange for his cooperation. Before he was transferred to the facility, he used his remaining resources to establish the Emma Carter Foundation for Financial Justice, a $100 million endowment to help fraud victims and support whistleblowers. Emma visited him once during his sentence, bringing books on ethics, philosophy, and redemption. They talked for an hour about power, responsibility, and the possibility of change. Do you think I can ever make up for what I've done? The Sheikh asked. I don't know, Emma said honestly, but I think trying is worth something. It's more than most people do. When Sheikh Rashid was released after serving his full sentence, he returned to Dubai a changed man. He liquidated his remaining assets and dedicated his life to legitimate business and philanthropy, focusing on education and opportunities for young people in the Middle East. He never forgot the waitress, who had seen through him when everyone else saw only power and money. Emma thrived as a professor at Columbia. Her course, The Ethics of Power, Speaking Truth in a World of Inequality, became the most popular class in the department. She taught her students that knowledge was a responsibility, that skills and education should be used to help others, and that sometimes the most powerful thing you could do was refuse to stay silent. She never forgot her time as a waitress. It had taught her that invisibility was sometimes a choice, and that the most dangerous people were those who underestimated the quiet ones in the corner, who saw and heard everything. On the anniversary of the night she'd first overheard the Sheikh's conspiracy, Emma stood in front of her class at Columbia and told them the story, not to glorify herself, but to teach them a lesson about courage, justice, and the responsibility that came with knowledge. Power isn't about money or status, she told her students. It's about what you do when you have the chance to make a difference. It's about refusing to stay silent when you see injustice. It's about using whatever skills you have, whatever knowledge you possess to help people who can't help themselves. A student raised her hand. But weren't you scared? You could have been killed. I was terrified, Emma admitted. But I was more afraid of staying silent, of being complicit, of letting thousands of people lose everything because I was too scared to speak up. Fear is natural. But courage isn't the absence of fear. It's doing what's right despite the fear. After class, Emma walked through the Columbia campus, past the buildings where she'd once studied, where James had once destroyed her career. She thought about how far she'd come, from a broken doctoral student to a waitress to a professor who had helped bring down an international criminal network. She thought about Sheikh Rashid, serving his time and trying to become a better man. She thought about the thousands of people who still had their retirement savings because she'd refused to stay invisible. She thought about her students, who would go out into the world with the knowledge that one person could make a difference. And she thought about that night at Le Jardin, when she'd heard men speaking in Arabic about stealing $1 billion, and she'd made the choice to do something about it. The choice that had changed everything. Emma smiled as she walked through the autumn leaves, her Columbia faculty ID hanging around her neck. She'd been invisible once, overlooked and underestimated. But she'd learned that invisibility could be a weapon, that being underestimated could be an advantage, and that sometimes the most powerful thing in the world was a person who refused to accept injustice. The Sheikh had been wrong about many things, but he'd been right about one thing. Emma Carter had never been invisible. The world had just been too blind to see her, until the moment she made them look, and once they looked, everything changed.